Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 25th, 2021 Hempstead Town Board meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Clavin.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman. Here. Councilman Carini.
Here.
Councilman D'Esposito. I'm
here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
Here. I now ask Councilman Dunn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Rise, face the American flag. Place your right hand over your heart and join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And would all please remain standing for a moment of remembrance with Memorial Day approaching? Thank you all. God bless America. Because of the governor's executive orders and the COVID-19 pandemic, today's public hearings will allow for both in-person participation and participation using the GoToWebinar. Instructions participating using the GoToWebinar and all relevant documents are now on the town's website. When the clerk calls for a public hearing, first those here at Town Hall will have the chance to speak. Then participants in the GoToWebinar will have a chance to speak. All participants on the GoToWebinar must pay attention to the cases called by our town clerk. When the public hearing is called, which you wish to speak, you must click the raise your hand on the GoToWebinar. If you do not click your raise your hand button, you will not be called. All participants of the GoToWebinar will be muted until the moderator calls your name to speak. You must pay attention to your name and begin speaking when your name is called, or the moderator will have to go on to the next participant. The moderator will not recall anyone's name, so please pay attention for your name. If you are participating in the GoToWebinar and watching on the live stream, then you must mute the live stream when it is your turn to speak, or you will not be understood. Every participant will be given one chance to speak for up to 3 minutes. When you are done speaking or when your time is up, the moderator will again mute you on the GoToWebinar. At the end of the public hearing portion of the meeting, the GoToWebinar will be turned off, and I encourage all those using the GoToWebinar to continue listening and watching in the town's live stream. Please also note that anyone using profanity or straying off topic will be muted. Madam Clerk, please call the first public hearing.
We have a proposed local law regarding place streets by retitling the chapter Closed Streets, replacing the word play with closed, authorizing the Commissioner of Highways to place appropriate signs and devices indicating and protecting closed streets, and adding Ocean Boulevard and Lido Beach as a closed street.
Anybody have a motion?
Yes, I received we have possession of a letter from the Point Lookout Lido Fire Department requesting that we adjourn this meeting. And at this point, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call.
Yes. Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Bruce.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Okay. So just so any of you know, the first hearing has been adjourned. Next item on the calendar, Madam Clerk.
We have a resolution adopting a secret negative declaration and determination of non-significance in connection with an application to rezone a parcel of land located in West Hempstead. And the companion public hearing is the application for 111 Hempstead Turnpike to rezone from Business X District to Residence CAS District in West Hempstead between Westminster Road and Broad Street and Hempstead Avenue.
Okay. Sorry, if you please go to the mic in the back there.
Hello, my name is Chris Capice. I'm with Heatherwood Luxury Rentals.
That microphone is not working.
Can't hear him.
Hold on for 1 second. The mic isn't on there. Thanks, Jeff. There you go. If you give your name and address for the record.
Can everybody hear me?
Now we can.
Great, thank you. My name is Christopher Capice. I'm with Heatherwood Luxury Rentals, 58 Motor Parkway, Comac, New York. We are going to be presenting the opportunity in West Hempstead. The rest of my team is still in the process of checking in, so I would ask that if we could move on and then come back in the next, 10, 15 minutes to this, it would be much appreciated. There's a long line outside.
How about if we jump his group?
Wait a minute. Just repeat that again, I'm sorry?
We have the rest of the team that's outside, including our land use attorney. They're checking in right now. There's a long line outside that's waiting to get in.
Okay, well, the problem is we should have your land use attorney, should have been a little earlier to come on up. You have a lot of residents in here for the presentation. So who's your land use attorney?
It's Bill Benesso.
Okay, why don't we have public safety, see if we can get Mr. Benesso go through the process so that the residents that are in here, we can move forward with the hearing, okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay. Good morning. If you give your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. William Benesso for Chelly Deegan Tarana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. Here on behalf of the applicant, 111 Hempstead Turnpike, LLC. If I can just have a moment to get my notes open. Thank you. With me this morning, on behalf of the applicant, is Mr. Christopher Capice of Heatherwood Luxury Rentals, also a principal. Sure.
Mr. Benesso, if you speak closer to the microphone, we're having
Yes, I will.
a little trouble hearing you, and there's ambient noise coming from the hallway, too.
Yeah, hold on for a second. I asked him to turn up your mic there, Bill.
Sure. That's fine. Is this better?
That much better.
Okay. So, as I was saying,
Bless
with
you.
me this morning is Mr. Christopher Capice with Heatherwood Luxury Rentals. Also a principal of Heatherwood is Mr. Doug Partrick in the audience. Mr. Capice will be speaking shortly. We also have a real estate expert, Mr. Barry Nelson, and a traffic consultant, Mr. Patrick Lenahan from VHB. In addition, we have David Wortman from VHB, who prepared the very detailed, expanded environmental assessment that was submitted to the town and reviewed. Mr. Lenahan prepared the traffic study that was submitted to the town and reviewed. The application before the board this morning involves two parcels of property situated in West Hempstead. They are presently zoned Business X District. The westerly parcel, the larger of the two parcels, is 6.54 acres. It has four frontages: Hempstead Turnpike to the north, Hempstead Avenue to the south, Westminster Road to the west, and Broad Street to the east. It is the site of the old National Wholesale Liquidators store and a series of tenant spaces fronting on Hempstead Turnpike, which frankly, many of which are vacant. The rear of the property to the south is all asphalt. On the easterly parcel, the smaller parcel, 2.89 acres, you have two frontages: Broad Street to the west and Hempstead Avenue to the south. To the southeast of Hempstead Avenue, is the West Hempstead Railroad Station. And that parcel is completely asphalt. The properties, both properties in their current state, it's a blighted parcels. They're unsightly, they're underutilized, and their assessed value are decreasing every year. And this application proposes a complete redevelopment of the property. We are asking to have the Residence CAS overlay district applied to the property so that it can be redeveloped with a new apartment development of 428 units comprised of 3 buildings. On the westerly parcel, there will be 2 buildings, each of which are 3 stories tall. There'll be 114 units in one, 162 units in the other, and that parcel will provide for 502 off-street parking spaces. The easterly parcel will have 1 building on its south end, 4 stories, 152 units, and that will have 255 parking spaces. The proposed project is fully compliant with the dimensional, bulk, height requirements and parking requirements applicable to the CAS zoning district. In fact, we are under in terms of height. The height that's permitted is 4.5 stories. We have 2 3-story buildings and 1 4-story. We are over in terms of parking. We provide more parking than the code requires. The project really is an opportunity for this area to make a big change. It is one that the CAS district was really created for. Not only will it revitalize the site itself, but it will provide much needed housing that is clearly the type of housing that's needed, especially near areas of mass transit. It'll generate new business by providing patrons for the local personal service and retail facilities in the area. And this will even help to retain the West Hempstead Railroad Station, which is on this site, and due to down ridership is in jeopardy. So it's a true opportunity to significantly improve the area and significantly improve the surrounding community in association with this project. The apartments will be a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. These are proposed rental projects, and it is something that, as you'll hear from Mr. Capice, all the studies out there show this is significant demand in the county and throughout the Long Island. The Nassau County Planning Commission has reviewed this and recommended a local determination, having no objections to it. So we're now asking the town board to favorably consider it. With that overview, unless the board has any questions of me, I'll call upon Mr. Capice to provide some information about Heatherwood and also speak to the project itself.
Thank you, Mr. Bonesso. If any speaker knows that our coworker is going to be wiping down the mic, so I just ask you after you're done speaking to give it a moment. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So could we advance to the next slide, please? So great. So that's the current existing condition, which is 9 acres at the West Hempstead train station. And if we can move to the next slide, please. Here are a number of vantage points of the existing condition. I tried to get a good perspective there of the surrounding area, and we can see the amount of blight, and the site itself has sat that way for a number of years at this point. Next slide, please. That is the proposed site plan. You can see that the site is bordered at Hempstead Turnpike at the north and Hempstead Avenue at the south, and then Westminster to the west. And it is bifurcated by Broad Street that runs north-south at the center. Next slide, please. Thank you. Those are some renderings, some perspectives that we are working on. There are multiple design parties, which is the look and feel of a design. And those are some of the options that we have been working on. Obviously, we would advance once we were to hopefully get to site plan and move the ball forward from there. Next slide.
Wait, can you go back just one slide there? You're talking about the site plans and the pictures. I just want to kind of stand it.
Sure.
So you haven't made a determination of which one you're envisioning in the area?
Yeah, so what we wound up doing was, as we were going through our multiple public meetings, we wanted to give options and get feedback from the local community as to, what their, I guess, input would be. And I would tell you that the majority of the feedback that we got was the upper left-hand corner and bottom right-hand corner, which is basically the same design scheme with different color palettes.
And it just looks like there's a little more green space up in that top left one. Am I right about that?
No, it's just a different perspective. One perspective is a little higher
Okay.
than the other ones, and the bottom right-hand is from the street. And you're correct. That corner of Westminster and Hempstead Turnpike, that's really that iconic pocket park.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to create at that corner.
Okay. Like, I know the community's been giving you feedback. I just want to make sure that they feel that when we come to an end decision, whatever it may be, that if there is ever an approval, that they'll have that same level of feedback, because I know it's a very passionate area that they'd like to see something there. So great.
And we agree. Okay, next slide, please. So just a little bit about Heatherwood. We're a 70-year-old organization, family-owned and operated, and we think we've built a reputation as a best-in-breed developer. And that's one that does what they say they're going to do. And the reason why we're able to sit up here and speak to you today is because we've executed and done what we said we were going to do in other neighborhoods and other communities throughout the country and throughout Long Island. So Long Island's a small place. Reputation travels. Next slide. These are some precedent images of some of the quality of what Heatherwood has built in the past, so from some interior fitness spaces to billiards to club rooms. And we need to make sure that we were giving everybody the comfort that we could execute to the highest quality level that this community deserves.
Yes, along those lines, is there one particular development that you've done that you would say is going to be substantially similar to the one you're proposing here?
As far as the interior amenity spaces,
The whole project.
the whole project, I would say it's a combination of the quality of Echo Pond, which is on Long Island, and then also a combination of Tower 28, which is in Long Island City. And that's a double-loaded corridor, obviously much higher. But as far as the interior and exterior amenity spaces, I think those are two communities that you can go online, take a look at the imagery, and say, yeah, this is going to be representative of the quality that's going to be here.
And what is your apartment mix going to be? First of all, have you made a decision yet whether you're doing rentals or condominiums?
We're apartment developers.
Okay, so what is the mix going to be as far as the apartments that you're proposing?
The unit mix itself?
Yes, correct.
What's the? So 39 studios, 172 one-bedrooms, 153 twos, and 64 three-bedrooms.
Would you repeat that?
Sure. And it's in the application. 39 studios, 172 one-bedrooms, 153 two-bedrooms, and 64 three-bedrooms. Okay, so the question becomes, why this site? What makes this site special and unique? And if you get, that would be great. So, like I said earlier, the area is adjacent to a Nassau County Long Island Railroad station and 9 acres that's owned by a single owner. And I can't think of another parcel of land with those sort of multifamily attributes in all of Long Island. It's very unique. We've wound up partnering with the local civic groups over the last year or so, and we've done quite a bit of outreach. We've had many public hearings, day and night. We did a number of day and night hearings, back-to-backs out at St. Thomas Church, and they were all very well attended through the newsletters and social media. We got those announcements out to thousands of people, and I'd say, broadly speaking, we've really had very positive feedback from beginning to today. And we had hundreds of residents out at those public meetings. We wound up meeting with members of the school board, members of the Orthodox community, Nassau County Fire Marshal, and the West Hempstead Fire Department. And I'd say that, again, you don't take my word. You'll hear people talk about it today. I think that the reception has been very positive to date. Next slide, please.
Excuse me, are you going to testify on value, or do you have an expert that's going to testify on value?
We have a real estate expert coming. Okay, the need for multifamily. I mean, on Long Island, we know that we have historical undersupply of multifamily, and these types of reports have demonstrated the need. But the reason why this is important and salient is because we get asked the question, well, wow, that's a big development. Are you going to fill it? Right? What happens when you don't fill it? And at the end of the day, we're going to fill this community, right? There's an incredible demand and an incredible need here. And so I wanted to look back and look at the Heatherwood portfolio on Long Island over the last 2 years. So COVID and pre-COVID, all right? Our occupancy has ranged from 97 to 98% over that time frame, and that's consistent. And we will bring the same sort of consistency here as well. Next slide, please.
Excuse me again.
Yes.
Are you building it in phases or as one single project?
It's a good question. To be determined. We have the ability, obviously, with the way that the buildings are laid out in 3 different buildings. We have the ability to phase it, and we may, but we haven't made that decision right now.
If market conditions change, you might just build one part of it now, fill it up, and then build the rest?
That's a potential. We may phase it. So this is a Forbes article for late last year, and it just speaks to the condition of the retail market that continues to atrophy. And the prospects for, this site in West Hempstead, again, the site has languished for the better part of a couple of decades, and the options for that site aren't getting better. They're getting worse. And so, next slide. And so we wanted to speak to some of the conditions here on the site. So over the last 5 years, the taxes on that site have gone down. Think about that. The taxes have gone down over the last 5 years. Okay? So it's an opportunity for us to mitigate the tax erosion that's occurring on site. And again, there have been multiple attempts to reposition the site that have never come to fruition for a host of reasons. And the Amazonification of the retail spaces now, and then the COVID acceleration, I would argue that there's been, 10 years of acceleration that's occurred in 10 months. So what the benefit is, and as Bill, I think, mentioned earlier, and as the application indicates, a pilot is part of the development program. So what happens? Instead of atrophying of taxes that's going to be occurring, right, and certiorari process where we're grieving or challenging taxes, we hold at the tax level now, and we only go up with predictability in the future, because with a pilot, there's no grieving of those taxes. You have predictability on the way up and a guarantee.
Excuse me, are you saying that you're going to ask for a pilot?
Correct.
You're going to be asking the county for that?
Town of Hempstead, IDA. Next slide, please.
Yeah, also along those lines, with respect to that, do you currently have the right to grieve the property?
Yes.
Are you grieving this year?
We don't own the land. So it's an option right now to buy, provided that we meet certain guidelines, obviously the approval's being done.
So if you were to acquire the property this year, you would be seeking a pilot, so next year you would making basically a commitment to the town board that you won't grieve it in the event that you make an application for a pilot?
That's right, correct. We get our approvals, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So here are a couple of Newsday articles that have occurred in the last 12 to 15 months, and obviously, the MTA has been targeting the West Hempstead train line as one for a decrease or elimination of service. And look, at the end of the day, a transit-oriented development of this scale brings ridership, and it only gives the opportunity to preserve service at the train station. And we lose this opportunity in a post-COVID environment. We don't know what the future will hold, but we do know that if this development is approved, it will bring additional ridership and an argument to maintain service and keep that train station open. Next slide, please.
Have you spoken to Mr. Angenal from the Long Island Railroad?
So we have had members in collaboration here that have spoken to the MTA and Long Island Railroad, and to that end, we've also been collaboratively with the neighborhood here, working to make this a priority for the Long Island Association as well. And so on the #1 priority for 2021, preservation of the West Hempstead train station is now in their language. So, which is a big deal. We're trying to make sure that we're getting this visibility as high as we can with the influencers that we have the ability to.
Yeah, no, there's just a little bit of a concern. I know the residents point out, they've only committed to maintaining a certain level of service to that station for a short period of time. As you know, there's another development over there. So I just want to make sure that the Long Island Railroad keeps up its end of the bargain, that if this is, really transit-oriented development, that the railroad doesn't turn around and cut the legs off from underneath it. So I'd really appreciate if you could follow up a little bit and try and get a commitment from the railroad. I'm not too sure that sometimes they follow through, but it'd be nice to get some level of commitment from them for for the development, and two, for the residents in the area. So they know that if they're making the investment, if that happens, that they're going to be able to utilize it for what the vision really is.
And we wholeheartedly agree, and we believe that a development like this can be the catalyst to help get the certainty that I think we would all want, and it's a win-win at that point. Okay, next slide. So this is one of the hot buttons that I wanted to address actively here, which is school impact. And, the question that we always get is, well, will these developments overburden the school district? And the answer, and again, don't take our word for it, we're the developer. Look at the third-party studies that have come out, Regional Plan Association, Stony Brook. Every one of these third-party studies comes out and shows that these developments do not overburden the school district. And if you go to the next slide, and again, we're going to leave this with the board. It's hard to see the numbers, so the board can digest. But you see the impact levels that are, predictable and within a certain range. Okay. And one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to look at, so what's, our closest community here, which is Norwich Gate in the town of Oyster Bay. Okay. 348 units. Last year I had 8 school children in the public schools, 8, which is 0.022. That's exactly in line with the numbers up there. And so you have the study data that we've submitted as well as our anecdotal evidence.
Along those lines, I've actually followed on that Patchogue development quite a bit because I found it really interesting the amount of students that actually didn't really bring. What has been your level of communication with the school district directly?
We've met with members of the school board, we've talked about the scope of the development in the exact specificity that we've submitted to the board, and so it's been very specifically communicated, and they have all the detail.
Question, in reference to the Oyster Bay project, how many 3-families, 2-family units are over there compared to the ones you're doing over here?
Yep, good. Another good question. So here, and I'll get you the exact info, and it can be a follow-up. So our mix over at Norwich Gate is 1 and 2 bedrooms, and here it's going to be studios to 3 bedrooms. So our mix is broader here, but I can get you the exact details on the Norwich Gate development following the hearing today. Okay, and so before I hand it over to Barry Nelson, who's our real estate consultant, just a couple of points that I'd like to make. We've worked closely and collaboratively with the local stakeholders and local leaders here, and like I said, I think we've garnered broad local support, and we've tried to make sure that we're as available and have answered all the questions that we could to this point. And we understand this is a development of scale; it's a development of significance. So. But we believe that Heatherwood is the right partner to execute the vision for the community, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. So we appreciate your time. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Who's going to be able to answer regarding parking, just so I know? Hold on. Bill, don't go near that mic. He's got to wipe it down first. Thanks.
Supervisor, we also have a traffic expert who will be testifying after our real estate expert.
Thank you.
To that end, at this point, I'll call up Mr. Barry Nelson. Mr. Nelson is a licensed real estate appraiser who has been recognized by this board on many, many occasions as and permitted to testify as a real estate expert. I would ask that he be permitted to testify as such again today.
Good morning, Supervisor, Town Board members.
Morning.
Protocol, keep it on, wear it, take it off.
Keep it on.
You've heard substantial information about the subject property and the proposal. I don't know if the board has it. I did hand in 40 pictures of the subject property and the surrounding area, and then it does include approximately 40 photographs that, if it's available, can be streamlined and run through on the projectors. The area, sort of a downtown business district in that the substantial area along Hempstead Avenue, Hempstead Turnpike, Westminster, and as you travel east, you get into the incorporated village of Hempstead, will include Fulton Avenue, which is the extension of Hempstead Turnpike, and Front Street. The majority of those parcels near the subject property, the surrounding parcels, north and south side of Hempstead Turnpike, Hempstead Avenue, are all business zoned. Some of the blocks are entirely business zoned. The residential would be further north of the Hempstead Turnpike, further west of Westminster. Majority of the development, like the subject property, was built in the early 1900s, 1920s, 1930s. In fact, the subject parcel, the former, and it was originally a department store, and I'm sure many of the people here today would remember it was Klein's department store, 3-story building, basement. Part of that to the east included Woolworths, Pergaments, and some other retail. Had, I think, originally 5 units, and Klein's department store. That was built in the early, mid-1950s, 55, 56. And the building today is over 65 years old, and it looks it. It's a brick building, very little windows on the second and third floor. The first floor retail that fronts to Hempstead Turnpike, old plate glass. It is an obsolete building. It is blighted, and the uses that came thereafter haven't really done much for the local economy or the community.
Mr. Nelson, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I'm very familiar with the site. I think my mother brought me to Klein's to get my bar mitzvah suit there that's how old I am.
I think I might have seen you there.
You might have.
For the same purpose.
Exactly. So the bottom line, I think, is to this whole application is why are we rezoning it from retail to residential, to transportation-oriented residential? What is the current state of retail in the region, and then particularly in this particular location?
Okay,
Why would it be better from a value standpoint to have residential versus retail, and what would that do to the surrounding community as far as their property values?
So what is the proposal is for a CAS zone, which is a transit-oriented development, and it has certain criteria to be located near public transportation. And you do have the bus routes, and as you heard earlier, the Long Island Railroad is right across the street on Hempstead Avenue. If you drive the immediate vicinity within West Hempstead, east to the incorporated village of Hempstead, Hempstead Avenue, Westminster corridor, you had substantial retail. You had boutiques and small conveniences, everyday conveniences. If you drive those streets today, there is a substantial amount of vacancy, old buildings. One of the few that have been redevelopment would be a gas station at the northeast corner of Westminster and Hempstead Turnpike. It is a 7-Eleven, but that same developer, as part of that development, purchased the stores to the east and now has done a substantial improvement to those retail stores. And that's over the last few years. You have the development across the street on Hempstead Avenue, West 130, which is a 4-story TOD development that was approved, I believe, in 2011 or constructed in that year. And that is 150 units, substantially improving the former uses of that property and upgrading that immediate area. If you just look at that small picture or small between Westminster or Woodfield Road up to the railroad, it's nicely tree-lined, maintained. It has the Rhode Island type gates in front. So it's a substantial improvement to what was before there, prior use. And now you look at the development on the subject property which is proposed. And one of the things I've done is I've worked on many similar type applications throughout Nassau County in local incorporated villages and town of Oyster Bay. One of the ones I just drove through coming to Town Hall this morning was the A. Holly Patterson. And if you remember what that site looked like 3 years ago.
I just want to interrupt you for a second. I'd just like to get to the point, though.
Yes.
Without talking about other areas. So with respect to this particular site, what is the likelihood that if we did nothing, that there would be another department store that would take their place, either use the existing building or knock it down and build a brand new,
The
nice
likelihood of
department
a
store?
new development for business retail is very slim. You got your big malls that are vacant, have anchor stores. You're going to get a second-rate, maybe national tenant that'll come in and revitalize possibly the existing building, but it is an old, obsolete building. Retail market has just about come to a halt right now. They're reutilizing existing retail. In fact, Amazon's going into your malls, taking the big anchor stores and using it for shipping and receiving, the last mile. This site for a redevelopment to another retail, I don't believe we need any more retail in this area. What you need is something to support the existing and revitalize the existing retail found on Hempstead Turnpike, Hempstead Avenue, and provide for more growth as far as people-oriented.
Would you say then that online shopping has made it unlikely that there'd be a substantial retailer that would go in there, and that with COVID-19 on top of that, it's a depressed retail market right now?
Exactly, and that's going to continue as we go forward. People have learned in my generation, and even the older, have learned how to shop online now. So with that said, going back to the pattern of development, area character, the blighted situation, the proof that the West 130 has brought to this area just for that small development is encouraging, and the future trends is positive. You see some immediate development or redevelopment on Hempstead Turnpike. Right across the street, some new renovations to existing buildings. Again, you need to fill up the existing retail, take care of the local economy by providing new growth in the area without a burden onto municipal services. Everything's available. Again, going back to A. Holly Patterson site, if you drive that corridor on the westerly side where they put the townhouses, it's inviting, it's welcome, it's encouraging new growth in that area, and the businesses are going to take off as well. Getting back to values, there isn't really substantial residential at this immediate vicinity. The closest single families would be west of Westminster. There's business along the Westminster corridor on the east and west sides. I don't believe, in my opinion, a residential development as proposed is going to depreciate residential values. As far as commercial, it's going to encourage developers and investors to buy the retail and lease up the existing buildings in the area. As far as rental lease values, an investigation of other developments, including West 130, we saw most of it's developed. There's a few units available, and that's a normal trend to have vacancies. A new tenant, existing tenant moves out, a new tenant comes available. The general rents start around $2,140, and they do go up to approximately, across the street, about $3,500, and that would be for the 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Barry, if you give me those numbers just one more time, please.
Okay, let me.
West 130, correct?
West, right.
So what were those numbers across the street again?
Generally, for a studio, $2,000, 1980 going up to about $3,500. And again, we're talking today, current market. Depending on this development, I would estimate, do you have the numbers? I would estimate, and as I mentioned, studios approximately $1,800 to $2,000, one bedrooms approximately $2,200 to about $2,900. Two bedrooms would be approximately $2,900 going up to about $3,500, and three bedrooms would be about $3,500 to $4,000. Again, the variation slightly in each unit is that they will be slightly larger. Some will be a couple of hundred square feet larger than the other one, and they do get a price per square foot.
Mr. Vanessa, does that include water, electricity, and heating? Those prices that you gave, what's included in
Probably
those?
include water, separate. You would pay your own electric and gas bill.
Just for clarification, because the word probably didn't really answer the question, but what does it include it? And maybe you don't have to speak to it right now. We'll have Mr. Benesso come back to the mic, but I just want to get, I just want to get a definitive on that for the councilwoman.
Does not.
Okay, so that's rent. So then on top of that, then you're adding your water, your electric, and any other maintenance. Okay.
Yes.
How do those numbers compare with the market on Long Island?
Well, I would compare them in Nassau County, and Avalon is a little bit higher. Rockville Center is a little bit higher. Lynbrook is proposing some new developments right in line with them. Valley Stream, right in line with similar developments being proposed in Valley Stream.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
I'll remain here. That's my testimony if the board has any questions.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Vanessa, don't go near that mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. I'd like to now call Mr. Patrick Lenahan. Mr. Lenahan is a transportation engineer who also has been recognized by this board on multiple occasions as a traffic expert, authorized to give opinion testimony in connection with parking and traffic. I would like him qualified as such today. Mr. Lenahan?
Mr. Lenahan's going to give it a second as well. Thanks.
Morning, Supervisor, members of the board, council, and staff. My name is Patrick Lenahan. I am the Director of Transportation in VHB's Hauppauge, Long Island office. Did you hand those up, Bill? Yeah. Okay. So VHB has performed a detailed traffic impact study to evaluate the impacts to transportation associated with the proposed redevelopment of 111 Hempstead Turnpike in West Hempstead. Bill just handed up a few extra copies. I want to note that prior to the preparation of that study and in the expanded EF that was submitted a bit earlier is a transportation and parking section that dealt with two primary things. The first being what would happen at the site in terms of traffic with the existing buildings reoccupied, and what would happen under a couple of scenarios were the site redeveloped with a few uses under the existing zoning code. And without getting into too much detail, that's in the expanded EAF, and the conclusion is that when we compare what Heatherwood is proposing to those, as likely or unlikely as they may be, from a traffic generation perspective, what we are looking at here today is much more favorable. So regardless of that, we performed a detailed traffic impact study to gauge the impacts of what we're looking at today, assuming the property were a vacant farm field. We take no credit for the uses that are on the site now. We look at the traffic that will be generated by this development. We look at the intersections around the site, and we gauge the impact. So that traffic impact study evaluated potential impacts to transportation. The proposed site's redevelopment from a number of commercial uses to multifamily rental community with a small supportive commercial space. The study was performed in accordance with standard traffic engineering practices and principles and included such elements as traffic safety, site access, parking, future volumes and capacity. So in terms of future volumes and capacity, we look at the driveways and we looked at 8 major intersections around the site. It's important to note, as I said, the site is currently developed with approximately 240,000 square feet of commercial space that will be removed. Also, the site redevelopment as proposed is what is considered transit-oriented development, and that's been mentioned a few times. Development close to mass transit, as it would be located directly across Hempstead Avenue from the West Hempstead train station. It has been well documented that TOD, with convenient access to transit, results in significantly lower trip rates and parking demand rates than if it were located elsewhere. The proximity to the train will reduce personal vehicle travel, allow many to forego a second car and perhaps a first car, with fewer trips and less parking than development located elsewhere. We took a very conservative 20% reduction in trips due to its presence in a TOD environment. Studies on TOD show us that the credit can be as much as 50%. The proposed redevelopment contains multifamily rental housing. I just want to point out that this type of housing per unit generates much less traffic than a single-family home, about half, in fact. So the study finds very little impact due to the operation of the site as proposed, even without taking credit for the elimination of the existing site uses or potential reoccupancy. We see only small increases in delay due to the project at the studied intersections, Again, we took no credit for the existing uses. The proposed site access points were looked at in detail, and they will operate well with little delay. In regard to parking on the site will provide parking in excess of town code requirements, more than adequate to meet the needs of the site. So in closing, based on our detailed study, it is my professional opinion that the approval and operation of the site as proposed will not result in any significant negative impacts on traffic or parking conditions in the
May
vicinity
I
of the
ask a
site.
question, please, when you finish?
You done, Mr. Lanahan?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, and I'll take any questions.
Okay.
Hang out there.
All right. I'm concerned with the handicap accessible spaces that you left. How did you come up with the amount that you have for each of these buildings?
In terms of the
accessible
internal
spaces.
layout of the site regarding the counted, the number of spaces and their location, I think I want to refer to Tom Dixon, the site engineer. Far corner.
All right. Well, let me ask you another question while Tom's going to get that answer for the councilwoman. When did you conduct your study? What were the dates of it?
The traffic counts, which folks are concerned about nowadays for obvious reasons, were conducted in I believe the third quarter of last year. I can figure that out for you. Folks are worried about the effect of COVID, which is probably why you're asking the question. So what the New York State Department of Transportation has done, and traffic engineers have been following this for about a year, was come out with a published method of accounting for the effect of COVID.
New York State set these guidelines.
Correct. It's a publication from their regional traffic office that came down from main office. So essentially, the state DOT maintains numerous counts all over state roadways, county roadways, and some local roadways. So there's basically a library online of counts that were done by DOT pre-COVID, 2019, 2018, 2017. So the procedure, what the procedure involves, and it's in some ways pretty smart and in other ways pretty obvious. When we do a study, for instance, at this location, we go into the state library and we see where counts were done in the vicinity of the project pre-COVID, 2019, 2018, before the effect of the pandemic, the shutdown. And we do an identical count at the same exact location at the same time we're counting the study intersections. And I believe for this study we had 3 locations where we had DOT counts which we basically copied during COVID. And then we look at the difference between the current count and the pre-COVID count, and that tells us how much traffic has dropped. And that gives us a ratio that we apply to the counts we take currently to turn them back up to the condition that would exist were COVID not here. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take us to get back from COVID completely, or if we're ever going to get back from COVID completely. Traffic levels may stay depressed for some time. But that brings us back to a theoretical 2020 traffic condition as if COVID were not here. And we've done that numerous times over the last 9 months, let's say. Those have been reviewed by Nassau County DPW, Suffolk County, New York State DOT, and many other municipalities that we've worked with.
Mr. Lanahan, just getting back to the trip count that was your first premise when you made your presentation. In the unlikely event, let's say, that Saks Fifth Avenue was going to move back to Long Island and operate a retail site here, what's the basic comparison between a retail site and what you're proposing as far as trip count on and off the property?
Yeah. So we looked at various yield scenarios on the site, and I have a pure reoccupancy of the existing 240,000 square feet with retail. It's not a single tenant. It's what we call a retail center, but it's close. They are close. So In the AM commuter peak hour, which is what we look at for capacity issues, we look at AM peak hour commuter, PM peak hour commuter, and then Saturday. Let me just find my trip generation in here for the project. Excuse me.
You can make the report part of the hearing as a document, but just basically, would it be more or less or the same?
Significantly more, and I've found the numbers. So
Significantly more with retail or residential?
with retail. So in the morning peak, the retail is about 200 and a quarter trips, because retail doesn't do much in the morning, right? It's employees showing up to work, basically. And the residential is 123. In the evening, the retail is about 900, and we are sitting with the residential at about 150. And on Saturday, the difference gets even more pronounced.
So you're going to make your report part of the record?
Yes, I believe it was submitted.
Okay, so roughly, even though it's transit-oriented development, how many people do you estimate, right off the top of your mind, are actually going to use their cars and not using the train, that facility?
Well, the numbers that I just read were with the TOD credit removed.
Okay.
So that's, as I said earlier, I took a 20% credit to be conservative. Mm-hmm. Right next to the train station in this location with a convenient shot to Manhattan, it might be up in the 35% range.
It's just, I'm super familiar with this location. So I'm heading south on Westminster, and I'm coming down, and it goes from 1 lane to 2, right past this, right south of the school. So I know on the weeknights, I'm sitting in some traffic unless I'm making a left-hand turn with New York State's blinking light now. That doesn't make sense. And then I make the left-hand turn onto Hempstead Turnpike, which is really, really tight and always backs up now before you can go to the Bola to get gas or get ice cream for my children. Then I'm going to make the right-hand turn down Broad Street because I'm on my way to Family Cleaners to go pick up all my dry cleaning that I do every other day.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now, that is like, there's no way that you do not need to have some sort of traffic device or something at that intersection, because that roadway already, and look, this is just, if this happens, great. But I'm going to tell you right now, making that left-hand turn, it's already insanely dangerous. You have cars coming out of the development across the street by the train station. You generally have somebody illegally parked in front of that, getting their card service. You have buses, heading down at full steam ahead before you go to the gas station at the corner. I just have a real concern with that part of this exchange, because I'm looking at your plans and you got parking all over the place. When someone's going to try and get onto Hempstead Avenue, I'm just being realistic. They're going to have a major problem. And making it right is dangerous in and of itself. But was there even a look or a discussion with the county about the amount of traffic to make that left-hand turn? Because that's a real safety concern for me right now, just going there. So if I'm going to add a lot of cars to it, I got to figure it's going to be a greater safety concern.
Well, so we're talking about the south end of Westminster, or the south?
No, it's south end of Broad Street, making a left onto Hempstead Avenue. The county had no problem with that?
Not so far, and it went into the Planning Commission, who shares it with traffic.
Wow. I feel like taking them all out for a ride one day. But I'm just saying to you, I'd prefer if you really went back, because like I said, I drive this route every single day. I was there this morning. It's just a very, very dangerous route. And for some reason, between the point of the car wash up until that gas station, everyone feels like the speed limit's 95 miles per hour, and they fly down there. And I'm just, it's just something I'd like you to talk to the county about, coming up with some sort of protocol for that turn, if this moves forward. I just think it's something it's just being realistic. And in addition, you'll have to answer this right now. And I'm even looking at your photos. The Long Island Railroad's utilizing some of that lot, for parking, right?
Correct.
Okay. You're taking that to build there, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you just have to answer this for me. Where's everybody parking there?
They will be displaced. There's no question about that. We don't.
And now pre-pandemic,
other development would do the
Yeah,
same.
no, I got you. Okay, so, and I'm just saying, like, I know everybody gets there super early for the closed parking. Pre-pandemic, roughly, how many people were parking there?
About 50.
Just about 50?
I looked at years' worth of historical aerial photographs.
Okay, all right. So a nice estimate is 50 people are going to be displaced, and we'll have to, we want people to utilize the train. They still have to get there. So that again, a little bit of a concern for me. That's all. Bill, don't touch that mic unless he wipes it down. I'm going to give you a hard time, okay?
You still haven't answered my question. I'm concerned about the handicap parking.
Bill would like to go back to the supervisor's question, if we could.
Mr. Supervisor, I understand your concern. At the same time, as you've noted, any reuse of this property is going to displace whoever was parking there and using it for commuter parking. That commuter parking is not permitted. There has never been an arrangement with the LIRR to provide commuter parking. The fact of the matter is there are other municipal lots, not super close by, but there are municipal lots in the area that can accommodate additional commuter parking. And the fact of the matter is, to put a use here that will generate more ridership and much less in the way of parking demand for the LIRR is certainly a better prospect than putting a new commercial development here.
Bill, I'm not disagreeing, but you know what? It's just, I'm sure if I'm one of those 50 people and I'm in the city right now, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to wake up in 3 months and I have parking. I just wanted to make sure that those people know it. And you'll correct me if I'm wrong. What, are you taking it all the way up to the line of where the car wash is?
Taking
the property development. I'm just thinking of that area. It's all the way up to that. And I get it, and I know what it looks like down there. So is it literally up to that property line? Because it looks like from the print that the car wash is going to remain. Is that right?
The car wash is remaining.
Yeah.
We have no impact on that property. But we do meet our setbacks. We're not asking for any setback relief. There will be appropriate setbacks in accordance with the CAS zone.
Yeah, and look, and I'm just being realistic. I mean, that gas station is a heavily used gas station. For whatever reason, maybe it's the aesthetics, it's very nice, or the fact that it's reasonably priced gas. Now I put on top of there, a lot of other cars. I just don't think it's realistic to think that Broad Street's going to really be an enjoyable ride for anybody in the equation without the county getting involved and coming up with some sort of safety mechanism for that, at least for the southern. I mean, the northern, it is what it is, but that southern one is the one I'm most concerned with.
Okay, we've got to wipe down the microphone again.
Thank you. Maybe we should just get 2 microphones.
Supervisor, so just so you're hearing it directly from us, right, we will take a harder look at that with the county and look at traffic calming measures down Broad Street. We're hearing you, we understand, and so we...
No, and I appreciate that. It's just like I said, to me, it's all about the safety there, and if this moves forward, I just find it to be dangerous, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, and we agree. And look, at the end of the day, the thought is that we're hopefully going to be owning communities that are going to be next to each other, bifurcated by Broad Street, and we want to make sure we have a safe condition as well.
Gotcha. Oh, no. Mr. Lanahan doesn't get to escape. He doesn't. No. Come on, Mr. Benesso. Councilwoman Goosby's going to work him over now. No, I understand. She had a question about, you only had, 18 handicap stalls? Was that right? 6 in one building. That she wants that addressed.
Dixon.
Tom Dixon.
Tom Dixon.
Site engineer.
Okay.
We have to wipe the microphone again.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Tom Dixon with the firm Nelson & Pope. Office is located at 70 Maxis Road, Melville, New York. I'm the site engineer on the project. I prepared the site plan as part of the application. With respect to Councilwoman Goosby's question on the handicap parking, that requirement comes out of the Building Code of New York State and the Fair Housing Act. For a multifamily development, the requirement is 2% of the total parking provided for the accessible units. And then for the commercial use, there's a table in the building code for those. So if you look at the total number of parking stalls provided, and you take 2% of the total, you'll see that we meet that, that requirement.
Okay, you have 18 total for everything. That's for all three buildings, right?
That's correct. The handicap stalls would get dispersed. That's another requirement of the building code, is that the stalls be dispersed amongst the different types of parking, and they be located nearest to the accessible entrances for those buildings.
Well, the only problem I have with that is the fact I happen to need handicap parking, and I find it extremely, you really can't find a place to park if you're handicapped. So that's something you can look at and maybe make a suggestion, because there are a lot of people who need handicap parking and there's nothing available.
Absolutely, we'll certainly look at that.
And I would just add, we do have a few extra parking spaces than required. We could probably make some modifications, add some more handicap spaces. I don't know how many we can add, but we'll certainly look at that as an attempt to provide more handicap parking and disperse it in a fair and just way. Are there any further questions for Mr. Lenahan?
Not right now, but you never know.
Okay, well, we're ready to respond to any questions put forth by the board or the public in response to their comments, but that is our direct presentation at this time.
Then Mr. Bennett, I'll keep you here for a little bit longer.
Sure.
You're just gonna, I think, and I just want everybody to be at a comfort level. You're gonna have the three buildings, right?
Right.
Okay. You're gonna have parking in each of the locations, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just walk through everybody, each building, and how the parking is gonna be. How many is underground? How many other buildings is elevated parking? Where they are in relation, so everyone gets a real idea of the visual. Because like I said, with the four pictures up front, it's just making it a little bit difficult, and I want everyone to just be aware of, is there underground parking? I think I see some in one building, and I see elevated, and I see parking in the center, which I get, but if we could just kind of walk through each of the structures for everybody. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to start with the building. We refer to it as Building A1, which is in the northwest corner of, that's on the corner of Hempstead Turnpike and Westminster, so the northwest corner of our property. That building has basement garage parking, so that's going to be below ground, 223 stalls in the basement. And then there's a first level garage parking where there's 114 stalls provided for that. Then when you move further to the southwest corner, that is Building A2, and sorry, just right to this. So for Building A2, it's all surface parking. There's no parking garage for Building A2. That has 155 surface parking stalls. That's located in the southwest corner of the property. And then on Parcel B, which we refer to as Building B, that's on the east side of Broad Street. That building has 2 levels of parking garage. However, there's not a basement garage proposed on that. There's a first level parking garage with 134 stalls and a second floor parking garage level with 121 stalls.
Okay. Now on this one, the exterior living, how high, what's the height of that? In comparison to the parking garage, that's what I want to get. Your outside structure compared to your parking garage. So the outside, where people are looking at it, your units, whatever they may be, what's the height roughly going to be of that?
Building height? Building? What's he talking about?
Yeah, 2-story.
No, I understand, but you're talking about the total height?
What's your height of your second story garage for parking on that structure? What's that maximum height the residents are going to know?
Oh, you're probably, the second level parking would
Yeah.
be, maybe 10 feet above the first level. But that's,
But I'm saying, what's the total of the two? How high are we going in the sky?
the first level is on grade, and then your next level is about plus or minus 10 feet above that. And the building wraps the parking.
And I get that. That's what I want to just clarify. You're outside of your building. What's the maximum height you anticipate that being?
Okay, the building is 4 stories, and it would be within the 60 feet height limit.
60 feet. All right. So then if I could see through the 60-story building, how high would your parking be?
10 feet.
10 feet. So, okay. So you're not seeing it anywhere from driving around. It's all outside. That's what I want to get to. Okay. Two questions. You couldn't get the gas station on the corner. Am I right about that? You can be honest with me. Sorry. Okay. Now, Councilwoman, you had a question on what was it, Long Drive?
I'm concerned with Long Drive and those people that live in that little area by the gas station. What have you done as far as, how are they going to get out of there? Would that create a problem for those people that live on Long Drive, as far as traffic is concerned?
Which one are you looking at?
See, I'm looking at this one, right here. You can't see it on there, but you can see it here. See Hempstead Avenue?
Yeah.
And then here's Long Drive right here. And the front street is here. When you come,
It's a little further. No. Okay, I see. Okay. All right, just to clarify, the Councilwoman's asking about, if you head a little bit east on Hempstead Avenue, right down by the next intersection, and there's another gas station there, there's a Dunkin' Donuts there, there's White Castle there. I think there may currently be a traffic light there. Am I right about that? Am I right about that?
when you leave Hempstead, you have to go down and.
No.
I don't think it's right.
I believe there is currently guys, that's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way intersection there. There's a traffic light there. I think her concern is, again, that traffic that's coming from the complex heading east and a buildup there. If you could follow up with Nassau County about, monitoring the light. Just like you're going to have to talk to the state about the Hempstead Turnpike light there. That's right at the corner of Westminster Road and the project, because, that light sequence, it backs up over there.
Yeah, well, one of the intersections that we looked at as part of the study includes Fulton, Hempstead Avenue on Front Street, where Long comes right into. Again, I have to reiterate the level of traffic we're talking about in any particular location. When I take 150 vehicles and only 70% of them are leaving the site in one direction, and I put them out on 6 roads in all directions of the compass, we're not talking about a lot of traffic in any one particular place. If you,
and I get that. It's just I look at your potential development, and like I said, I've expressed my concerns, and then I look at what's the next step. There's the old bank that I don't think there's anybody 1 story above there with the big parking next door. It's a Domino's, and that's why I said I just look at a little long term. There's going to be a lot of traffic in that area, and I just want to make sure that the road is going to accommodate, a great, potential great development, but it's going to accommodate and not cause headaches for all those neighbors. And how does your neighbors, just so I know, how is your neighbors at Westminster? They're supportive of it along that whole line?
You're going to hear from a large number of people who are here, and I believe mostly in support. But
okay, that's great. Okay.
Have you, anyone here from Long Drive, or did you meet with those people that live on Long Drive?
Yeah, we left it to the civics to contact the people in the area, and they had multiple meetings. I can't say for sure if anyone from Long Avenue was there, but I'll allow the civics to speak to that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the only reason I'm asking, because that's Hempstead. That's not West, that's Hempstead. It's that close together that you want to make sure that they have been involved in this.
Well, Hempstead was certainly included in the required mailings. The Village of Hempstead We've not heard anything from the village, but certainly we would work with the village as need be to accommodate any of their concerns.
Okay, so I have one or two questions. What is the total investment that you're putting into the project at this particular time?
The total investment will be over $170 million.
Okay, now has that changed since the cost of construction has gone up dramatically?
We have, the answer is, has that changed? Yes, that's changed. So it's only increasing and escalating at this point. We are hopeful that by the time that we were to get through site plan approval, so on and so forth, to building permit, that we would see some sort of abatement to be closer to what we initially underwrote.
Okay, so the other question is, you have 3 site plans that we haven't totally seen, but yet the community has seen that, and they're in anticipation of a certain type of site plan. So when does the board actually get those site plans that we can kind of like, for your sake and for our sake, to focus in on the total cost and what your allocation investment's going to be, so we can, you know, come to terms on the decision?
Yeah, so you're talking about the actual imagery, the rendering, the elevation itself. Typically, we don't advance those until site plan.
Okay.
For these purposes, I would say focus on the 2 that we have submitted, which is the upper and lower right-hand corner, which is just a color differentiation.
Yeah, because my biggest concern is the curb appeal and, you know, what type of legacy we're putting into the West Hempstead. So I would very much like to have the town board get that type of view of what the future will hold for West Hempstead. I think the community has seen that, but yet the board hasn't. So if you can get that to us, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yep. Well, so what we will do is we will follow up with a package this week. And again, the baseline will be those elevations that you saw in the upper left-hand corner, lower right-hand corner, and we will then supplement that package with the rest of what we've presented. And again, we've shown in the past, so we're happy to follow up immediately.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one other question. So basically, your residential development program that you have other types of developments that pay you rentals. There was a suspension of people paying their rent. How has that affected your financial condition in reference to going forward on a rental basis and not a condo co-op situation?
Yep. No, it's another good question. You know, so for us, I'll tell you, it's one of the benefits of being Heatherwood, because at the end of the day, you know, there are some merchant builders, and when I say merchant builders, I say those who build, develop, rent up, and sell. We're not that, right? We're long-term owner-operators. So what we do at the end of the day is we build and we operate via Heatherwood staff. We build these communities with Heatherwood construction teams, okay? So what does that allow us to do? It allows us the stability to kind of work through the challenges like we have right now. And we're hurting. You know, we've taken our lumps just like everybody else in the residential field. But we have the ability to execute on a project like this, and we wouldn't be here saying we can make this happen and execute if we didn't feel we could. So, when I say the proof is in the pudding, 70 years of execution on Long Island, that's the proof in the pudding.
Thank you.
Okay. May I ask you a question? Are you using union workers?
So we work in an open shop situation, which is a combination of union and non-union labor.
Any other board member have any questions right now? Okay, we have a number of residents. Mr. Benesso, you and your team can stand down there. We're going to go through a number of residents that are here to speak about it. Okay. I'm just remind everybody who comes up, if you give a second for our coworkers to wipe down the mic each time. And we're going to start off with, Rosalie Norden.
you.
Ms. Norton, good afternoon. And I woke up this morning and I said there was going to be a 100% chance of Rosalie Norton at today's board meeting. So it's nice to see you. But if you would still give your name and address for the record, as always.
Rosalie Norton, 180 Buckingham Road in West Hempstead, New York. Excuse me. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I didn't see any closed doors, so I figured I could sneak in. I can't begin to tell you. I live in the northern part of West Hempstead, just north of Hempstead Turnpike, so I'm very near where this project is going up. And I'm here to completely support it, which will transform what has been termed, even by the town itself several years ago, a very blighted area in need of desperate help. It will benefit not just the residents, but also the businesses in the area. The developer is well-known, has a great reputation, and something that I have no question in my mind as to their ability to follow through. The question also comes to my attention that somebody mentioned about the impact on the school district. Well, I believe in doing my research, my due diligence, and finding out as much information as I can. Also, having served on a school board, I know what's involved with the school district when it comes to students. I brought with me today a copy of a study that was dated May 2019 and conducted by the Stony Brook University College of Business on the impact of market rate apartments on school districts. They concluded by saying they have very little impact. And I gave I was going to say supervisor, I gave Ms. Murray copies of that study to present to the board if you hadn't seen it before.
Got 'em in hand.
Very interesting. If you use West 130 as an example, they have, it's my understanding, very few students that they've sent to the school district in West Hempstead. So it really has had no impact at all in a negative way in any way. And as a resident of West Hempstead for 54 years, I want to express my strong support for the Heatherwood Apartment proposal and hope the board will do all it can in its power to expedite the process so that we don't have to look at that blighted area longer than we have to. And I want to thank you. Just as an aside and to digress, Broad Street should have a sign by Hempstead Avenue saying no left-hand turn allowed. Mr. Clay.
You know where I'm coming from on that.
Yeah, I know, because I've gone down there and I see a person's making the left-hand turn and I say they must have a death wish. You could go along Hempstead Turnpike, make a right-hand turn by White Castle, and get to that dry cleaner.
Yeah, no,
Much
that's what I said.
easier. Let me tell you, it takes a couple of minutes longer, but
It's not going to kill me, but like I said to you, it is. I'm just being realistic, and there's the bus stop there, and it drives me nuts because people come flying down that road. They really do.
You know what drives me nuts? I want to flatten their tires. Is when you're trying to make a very nice, safe right-hand turn, you have somebody looking to make a left, and you can't see what's coming.
Gotcha.
Also, there's one more thing, if I could. There's a municipal parking field 1 block just behind the stores, half a block from Hempstead Turnpike, so that those people who are parking there will have a safe place to park.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Norton.
very much again. I appreciate the time.
Always good seeing you, Ms. Norton. You take care.
And Ms. Norton, you know, one of Don's problems is he can't get past the White Castle.
Everybody loves belly bombers, troublemaker. So, next I have Keith McNamara. Mr. McNamara, if you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
Keith McNamara, 12 Targo Lane, Center Reach, New York. First, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm actually the area manager for All Side Supply. My yard is diagonal from the actual property in Hempstead on 1 Fulton Avenue. I want to express my approval for the change of zone. In fact, last Friday, I was able to communicate with many of my fellow business owners up and down Hempstead Turnpike who are also in favor of the project by Heatherwood. They're all excited, as am I, to eliminate this blighted property and for the much-needed potential new business and life into the community. So much that I would like to put some signatures that I collected from them into public record, if you will. And again, I approve this zone change and appreciate you hearing me and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for coming, and we'll take those signatures. We appreciate it. Now, next, he indicates he did not want to speak, but I just want to make sure that's the case. James Nickus? Did you want to speak? No? Okay, you're good. All right, next I have, it only comes up Christopher C. on this right now, from New York. So if there's a Christopher C. from New York. Okay. And now Anne-Marie DeSalvo? She had to leave? Okay. Okay. Next I have Lenny Minervini. You don't want to speak? Okay, it has down. That's fine. Thanks. Rabbi Lieberman. Good afternoon, Rabbi.
Thank you very much. Just to share, from our community's perspective and the availability of housing within the community and how the community is an attractive spot for us, I think this would be a tremendous asset and a wonderful thing for our community going forward. So I want to express my support. I thank you for the opportunity and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for coming today. Next I have Patrick Curry. Patrick had to leave? Really? You want to sign in? Okay, you're going to go last though, all right? But they'll sign you in the back if you want to sign in. Next I have Alan Kennemer. Good afternoon. If you just give your name and address to the record, please.
Sure. My name's Alan Kinnemer. I'm from 263 Mercury Street, East Meadow, New York. So I'm here representing the Long Island Builders Institute today. The statement that I have prepared is kind of redundant of what everybody said, but I'd like to go ahead and get this on the record if we could. We also are handing out a copy of that statement. The Long Island Builders Institute is the largest residential home building trade association in New York State. We do not often have the ability to testify on behalf of one of the most credible and trustworthy development companies on Long Island for a project which will be transformative for the community involved. Today, Libby has the opportunity to urge you to approve this zone change. I'm kind of taking some of it out. Mitch Pally wrote it, so.
It's long-winded.
That's right. First, this location is right directly across from the Long Island Railroad. Transit-oriented developments are a key part to Long Island. Second, the current buildings and development on this site is not conducive with the beauty of the town of West Hempstead. The project will redevelop as this major site in the middle of the community and remove a substantial impediment to other opportunities. Third, the ability to bring new residents in the community to support the small businesses. The small businesses in West Hempstead, particularly now, need this support. The development of this project will allow West Hempstead to join Baldwin and other townships that have been redeveloped in the town of Hempstead. To allow this to happen, we urge the town board to approve the rezoning excuse me, of this area and allow this project to bring a new attitude to West Hempstead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you tell Mr. Pally, thank you for sending you instead of him. We appreciate that very much. Next, I'm going to call up Dorothy Krimsky. Okay. Dorothy? Nope. Maureen Greenberg? Good afternoon. Please give your name and address to the record, please.
Maureen Greenberg, 408 Tyler Place in West Hempstead. Good afternoon. I am a 40-year resident of West Hempstead and president of the West Hempstead Community Support Association, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Board of Directors of the West Hempstead Community Support Association. Last summer, Heatherwood engaged in conversation with both West Hempstead Community Support Association as well as the Cathedral Garden Civic Association to discuss the plans and engage the community with the commonly known site as National Liquidators. Both organizations mobilized to have numerous community meetings outside during COVID to present their plans and gain community support. The response of the residents was overwhelmingly positive. Our town wants to see this over $170 million project to come into an area which will add housing to the town and taxes being paid on the property. We want our local train stations to stay open, and by having this complex built, we will have commuters come from that residence. The site is the entryway to our town on the east end. It has been blighted for many years and an eyesore to all. It is time for us to have an entry area that shows the beauty of our town. If retail was going to go there, they've had many years to do so. Others have looked at the property wanting to bring in storage or truck depots. These operations is not what the West Hempstead community deserves or wants. In February, the West Hempstead Community Association put out our newsletter, which goes out to every home in West Hempstead, over 7,000 homes, and our 1,200 members. This gave everyone the opportunity to learn about the project. In April, we presented the town board with over 500 petitions, with 500 signatures on a petition in support of the project. This is a moment in time, and we, the community, are very excited to have this opportunity. We implore you, the town board, to pass all needs to get this project done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Greenberg. Next, I have Max Werther. Not speaking? Okay. Next, I have Christine Linsalto. Not speaking? Okay. Paul Leo. Good afternoon. Just give me name and address of the record, please.
Yes, Paul Leo, 270 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York. I'm a representative of the Northeast Atlantic States Carpenters, Local 290 president. I'm here today, well, thank you all for having this hearing. I'm here today just to reflect the carpenters' position, as was duly stated by one of the owners, that they are an open shop community when it comes to building here on Long Island. In most of their places, their communities are very nice and they do very nice work. And from my understanding, they're also a very good and caring family, wanting to make sure that every community is built the best that it could be. With that being said, we are one of the trades that generally is not invited to the table to be able to participate in the bidding process. So I'm asking through the chair if that is something that we would entertain so that we can have an opportunity to build that relationship.
Okay. Respectfully, I'm going to ask maybe the developer, you take the time to sit down with Mr. Leo. Mr. Leo, I'd love to do a follow-up conversation on your feelings after talking to the developer, if that's acceptable.
I certainly will. Thank you very much, Supervisor.
Thank you very much for coming here. And like I said, the gentleman right there, you two can follow up, and Mr. Leo will follow up with you in the Carpenters. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Regina Todd.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Name and address, please.
My name is Regina Todd, 67 Stevens Avenue, Hempstead, New York. 11550. My name is Regina Todd. I've been a resident in Cathedral Gardens for over 30 years, and I am president of the Cathedral Gardens Civic Association. About a year ago, I was contacted by the Heatherwoods organization because they wanted to talk about a proposed development site of the National Wholesale Liquidators. As you can imagine, I was quite excited about the thought that somebody might want to develop the NWL site because it has been a blight in our community for over 2 decades. Heatherwood scheduled numerous open meetings within the community groups to request feedback and comments to their proposed development. Additionally, they met with the fire department, the fire marshal, school boards, water district, and religious communities. Their proposed development has received almost unanimous support from the neighborhood. We feel that this is a moment in time for the West Hempstead community to be revitalized, which it is in desperate need of. Since this property has come on the market, we had sought the development of a retail facility, and there was no interest on behalf of the numerous retailers we reached out to. Another group had proposed the use of the property as a truck distribution center, which would cause traffic nightmares as well as add nothing to the community. The Heatherwoods development is an opportunity we should not let pass. The addition of 400-plus luxury apartments will bring much-needed commerce and revenue to the area. This is good for West Hempstead, it is good for Nassau County, and it is good for the town of Hempstead. We appreciate your timeliness in approving this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Todd. I don't have any other slips of people here that want to speak on item 2 and 2A. Is there anybody here who wanted to be heard on item 2 or 2A? Okay, that's that. Now we go to the go-to webinar portion of today's program, where if you're watching, if you now please raise your hand button, and we'll ask our esteemed moderator, has anybody raised their hand?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Benesso, any closing thoughts here?
Yes, thank you. Very briefly, Supervisor, I hope you're going to heed Ms. Norton's advice on driving around your area. It's always very nice and as this board knows, very uncommon to have an application presentation where we have no opposition present. And that is true of this project. And I think it speaks volumes about not only the value and benefits that the project will bring, but also to the way the process unfolded. I think Heatherwood really did this right. They engaged the community. They made sure that the community was involved from day one. They had multiple meetings. They reached out to the right people, the civics, the school board, the fire department, the fire marshal's office. They really went the extra mile to make sure that everyone had input on this. All that being said, we know that this is still the beginning of the process. Certainly, we will advance the elevations that the board would like to see. We will communicate with both State DOT and County DPW with regard to the traffic concerns, the traffic calming considerations that the board has raised. And we will also continue to communicate with the community, not only the West Hempstead community, but also the village of Hempstead. But all that being said, I think what the board has heard today is a description of a project that is a true opportunity. It's a moment in time. I'll steal that phrase from two of the civic leaders. I think this is an opportunity to create something very special on this property that, again, I think the CAS district was really created for. And one need only look to the south side of Hempstead Avenue and the West 130 project to see just how great a project that has become. This will be just like that, if not better. So thank you very much for your time.
No, Mr. Benesso, thank you and your team for another great presentation. Very professional, and you're always good. I do want to point out that Bola was in here 2 weeks ago asking for a drive-through in the back of their facility at that area. So your traffic control guy might not know that because that was a good one, and we appreciate it. You know what? You know, and you've had a lot of advocates here from the community, and we appreciate all the neighbors coming out. You know, I do want to thank the developer for taking the time. Too bad you can't get that gas station. It would have helped me. But, you know, listen, you never know. You never know. It's just wishful thinking on me. We appreciate it. And with that, I will now ask if there is a motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the hearing be closed and that we reserve decision.
I second that.
All right, this will be a vote on both items 2 and 2A.
Okay.
Supervisor.
Oop.
Point of law, should we, in the interest of time, approve the secret first or do it together?
No, the secret would have to be, yes.
Yes, it would be both.
Okay.
As I just said, yes.
Yep.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Thank you again for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you for the application.
He's going to meet this fellow in the back, right?
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Merrick.
Okay. First, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Okay. Is there anyone here at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on number 3? I do not have any slips on number 3. Okay. If not, this starts the go-to webinar portion of our meeting. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay. With that, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in near Malvern and Wantagh.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, next, I do not have any slips in on this one. Does anybody in the public here today wish to be heard on this item? Okay, Mr. Moderator, now we will go to the go-to portion of the program.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay. May I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding vehicle speed limits in East Atlantic Beach.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, I do not have any slips on this. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, and next, Mr. Moderator, now we'll ask residents on the go-to webinar portion of the program to raise their hand, and Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, may I please have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I did want to say that I received a petition with over 100 residents that have requested this. I move that the public hearing be closed and that the local law be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed handicap parking on public streets in Elmont, Franklin Square, Garden City South, North Belmore, Oceanside, Roosevelt, and Uniondale.
I do not, well, first off, any board members wish to be heard on this item? Okay, I do not have any slips. Does anybody here at the hearing today in person wish to be heard on this item? Okay, and now we will go to the go-to meeting webinar portion of the program. Mr. Moderator, I'll ask that anybody raise their hand that wishes to be heard on this. Is anybody raising their hand?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, may I please have a motion?
I move that the motion be closed and adopted.
Second motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding gross weight restrictions in Inwood.
Okay, I do not have any slips on this. Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Okay, Mr. Moderator, I'll now ask that residents on the go-to webinar raise their hand, and you can let me know.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, anybody in the House want to speak on this? Okay, if not, then may I please have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and that we reserve decision.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item?
Yes, we have a proposed local law regarding appeals by addition of the term suspended to subsection A thereof in relation to suspension of a peddler's and solicitor's license.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Okay, I do not have any slips in. Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, Mr. Moderator, now is the portion we ask residents who are in the go-to webinar to please raise their hand, and I'm going to ask you what is happening.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, if that is the case, then may I please have a motion?
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the amendment to the proposed local law be adopted.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
We have a proposed local law regarding peddlers and solicitors by adding new subsections C and D and E thereof in relation to suspension of a peddler's license.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item? Okay, don't have any slips. Is there anyone here at Town Hall who wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, come on up to the mic there. Great. If you give your name and address to the record, please.
Valerie Heffron, St. Augustine, Florida. And I actually wanted to, sorry about that, it's moving that. I wanted to ask a quick question about this. The definition of peddlers and solicitors, does that also encompass campaigning?
Yeah, no, the simple answer is no. That is not what a peddler and solicitor is allowed to do. And you would note that because a door sign that says no peddling, no soliciting would not bar somebody from coming door to door for campaign purposes of any sort.
Okay, that's great news. The other thing was just regarding when you ask everyone for their names and addresses, it's a point of order. Open Meetings Law A05607 I looked into this, and I just wanted to go on the record to let you know that it's been advised that a person cannot be required to identify her or himself as a condition precedent to attending a meeting, speaking during a meeting, or otherwise communicating in relation to a meeting. It also says the public may attend meetings of public bodies irrespective of their identities or residence. A resident of the county of Timbuktu has the same right to attend meetings of the county legislature. That being so, it has been advised that a public body may request that a person provide his or her name or other identifier, but that a person may not be required to do so in order to attend, speak, or otherwise participate. I think it's extremely important that this governing body heed this open meetings law, because the reasons are significant. Many people are afraid of retribution. And I, as someone who runs a New York State Board of Election registered committee, have heard this from people that work here, people who live here, and people who own businesses here. So it also says in open meetings law that the general significance of a comment or point of view involves its content, not the identity of the individual who may have spoken or written. Second, over the years, this office has been contacted by women who are victims of batterers. They have wanted to offer a point of view or information, but in order to avoid harm, there has been reluctance to disclose their names or addresses. I haven't received information relevant to that specific issue, but I have heard people say they're afraid to come forward because they're going to lose their job. It's their livelihood. They're afraid to come forward because they're afraid that they're not going to get permits, or that someone's going to show up at their house and find something wrong with it. I personally know a business owner who said she was afraid to come forward on an issue because she was afraid of retribution through negative Facebook and Google reviews, which could hurt her livelihood. So I urge the board to enforce this open meetings law.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other slips on this one. Does anybody else in the public wish to be heard on item number 9? Okay. Mr. Moderator, if you will now check the raising your hand portion on the GoToWebinar.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
The board member have any comments?
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the amendment to the proposed local law be adopted.
Second the motion.
Supervisor Clayton.
Second the motion. Okay.
Yep. Yes. Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item on the decision calendar.
We have the application of This Is the Way We Learn and Grow Child Care Incorporated, DBA Learn and Grow, to rezone from Levittown Planned Residence District to business in Levittown.
Okay, may I please have a motion?
Councilman Dunn.
Okay, I make a motion that we close the hearing and we approve this application.
Okay, is there a second?
Supervisor Clavin.
But aye.
Second.
Okay. Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
And Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor would now remind our participants on GoToWebinar that the GoToWebinar platform will be turned off as we've concluded our public hearings on this calendar. We invite them all to move over to the town's live stream on the town's website to continue following the meeting.
Great. I'm just going to ask that we take a 2-minute break.
5-minute break. I need to go.
was right here.
Here we go.
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call the administrative calendar?
We have items 11 through 81 on the administrative calendar. I also have 3 additional items that are of an urgent or emergency nature. The first additional resolution authorizes the Commissioner of the Department of Engineering to sign the 2020-2021 MS4 Annual Stormwater Report. The second resolution authorizes the award of formal bid 18 of 2021 for 2 used 2016 or newer Kenworth T370 crew cab chassis with warranty. And the third resolution authorizes an agreement between the Town of Hempstead and the Long Island Housing Partnership Incorporated as a subrecipient to implement and administer the Town of Hempstead's Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Those items will be added to the administrative calendar as items 82 through 84.
Okay. First, does any member of the board wish to be heard on any of the items on the administrative calendar? Okay, I have a couple of slips in that of people that are here. We will start with Liz Dolan. Doylan? But, oh, it has a D. I apologize. Would you like to be heard? Yeah, come on. If you go to the mic in the back there by the podium. Do you hand him right to Ms. Trinkle's going to take him and she'll give him to the clerk? Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. If you can give your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Liz Boylan, Rockville Center, New York. I'm here representing 2 drug-free coalitions, the Rockville Center Coalition for Youth and Saving Lives 5 Towns. I'm here to address the marijuana law that was passed in March. I want to commend the town of Hempstead first for unveiling legislation to protect children from vaping and e-cigarettes. Thank you for passing that ordinance. I also want to thank you for coming out unanimously to opt out of pot sales and pot bars in the town of Hempstead. I would like to say that this law is very troubling. It'll only lead to many other issues. And although it does not allow for full opt-out of legalization, it does allow for towns and villages to opt out of on-site consumption sites and pot retail sales. The deadline to do this is December 31st, 2021, and I do hope that you move on this and have this in place. We have many concerns, which will take me more than 3 minutes, but I would like to address the revenue piece of it. I was traveling and I was in the South and I heard about several supervisors who are wavering on opting out because of the revenue. If you think of New York State and what we have in New York State, 62 counties, 932 towns, 62 cities, 950 school districts with 4,800 individual schools, 10 Native American reservations, over 3,400 local governments, 514 police departments. How big a slice could each of these municipalities get? $34 million is needed to set up this Office of Cannabis Management. $300 million is what they're projecting. I don't think that's going to even make a dent. In terms of what they have, there's a huge revenue fund. That's where all the money goes. Then after that, they take out the pieces of the pie. There's not much left over. The problems that we're experiencing with our youth are overwhelming. We're now declining on a pandemic, but our addiction epidemic is increasing. Every month I attend a Nassau County Heroin Prevention Task Force. We were very distraught about the passage of this law, and you can hear about the overdoses, the suicides, and the drug addiction. I commend Councilman Esposito, who's worked tirelessly in his Narcan training. He knows my colleague, Ruth Ann McCormick. We've worked together now for a number of years. We know what's going on. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, thank you for being outspoken about what happened yesterday in terms of the drug arrest and protecting the community. You not only protect your district, you also help Nassau County. Yesterday, Nassau County banned marijuana in all their parks, Nassau County properties, to limit the pot smoking. I hope you do the same. We're embarking in the summer. Malibu, Point Lookout, our parks, our families look to get out now, especially being cooped up for so long.
Absolutely, Ms. Boylan. Ms. Boylan, thank you very much for your advocacy and your communication on this as well.
And I also hope, please update your social host law to include cannabis, since this will affect, it comes in many forms.
Thank you very, very much. Next, I have Felix Percacci. Good afternoon, Mr. Percacci. If you give me name and address for the record, please.
Felix Percacci, Franklin Square. On item number 53, did the COVID-19 committee review the expenditures relating to this item?
Yeah, I heard him. I'm reading the item. I simply don't have the answer as to whether the COVID committee did any such review. They review only for one purpose, and that is to determine whether or not the application of any CARES Act expenditure is in compliance with Treasury regulations and federal law.
Okay. Can you tell me who reviewed the expenditures for number 53?
My best guess would be the Controller's Office, but I can't give you an answer.
Mr. Massimorino?
Yes, all of those type of expenses are...
John, I'm sorry. If you just walk up to the mic. Thank you so much.
Every one of those expenses are reviewed in detail by a member of my staff, and then they are processed for payment. They're entered, and they're part of the overall expenses for the H2M and the overall expenses for the upgrades of our facilities. So yes, every one of those are reviewed for appropriateness. Yes.
They're also sent to the attorneys.
The attorneys are advised of the type of expenses. They approve those type of expenses.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
The reason why I ask is because I have an outstanding FOIL request regarding this item, the predecessor, going back to September 9th and January 11th. And I was asked in one of those cases to narrow down the scope, and I asked, since it indicated the COVID-19 committee reviewed those expenditures in those resolutions of January 11th, I asked for those expenditures that the COVID-19 committee reviewed, and if they didn't review it, just said no records exist. And then I also asked to narrow down the scope because it was deemed too voluminous. I narrowed it down to what was put into the accounting system, and I said, well, if nothing was put in the accounting system, to just tell me no records exist. And this has been going on for months, and it's way overdue, so that's why I asked that question. Also, on the rental assistance issue that's also on the calendar today, I have a copy of the CARES Act with me. I've read it several times, and it indicates you can use money from the CARES Act to help prevent homelessness and things like that. And question I ask is, I know we got the second tranche of money this year. Why didn't we use that money last year, since we had, my numbers say 86, but we'll use your numbers as $68 million. Why didn't we use any money last year in the CARES Act money to help with the rental assistance and the possible homelessness last year? Why did we wait till the second tranche?
Well, first off, we haven't received a second tranche yet. That has not been received by the town of Hempstead to date. No, it has not been received. In addition, last year we went through various expenses, not only, as you're aware of, working with our local hospitals, working with Nassau County, working with our fire districts. We made those expenditures there. The money in relation to the housing is actually a separate amount of money that the town received just in the last 30 days. That's why we got the outside partnership to get ahead of the curve. So this money isn't actually the CARES money or even the second tranche. It's another funding source that was received by the town, and we reached out right away to the housing partnership to get the distribution and get really, they're already 1 week ahead of schedule to get the whole system in place.
In the Federal CARES Act, would providing, this is a Q&A they have at the end, would providing a consumer grant program to prevent eviction and assist in preventing homelessness be considered an eligible expense? And it says yes, and it goes on. I don't have enough time to read the whole thing. And there's another one that says pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
So that's the question. I was unaware that you had some other money, but the thing is, I will provide you with a spreadsheet with links to the resolutions that everyone could see, since you believe in transparency, can see links to all the resolutions that were passed by this board and the detail level, so they can know how the federal CARES money, and I hope you put that on the town's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Picancio. It was a pleasure. Next, I have Valerie Lamp. Afternoon. Name and address for the record.
Valerie Heffron, St. Augustine, Florida.
I apologize. It's signed in Valerie Lamp. I would have said Heffron.
That's weird. Anyway, on item number 20, I have a question. This is for a contract for Dr. Singh. I understand he's returning to the animal shelter. Is that correct?
Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Supervisor, board members, Senior Councilwoman. Yes, this is a purchasing contract for in-house veterinary services. The winning bidder was Dr. Singh. It's a one-year agreement with options for 2 years additional at our request.
Were there other applicants?
He was the sole bidder on this.
Okay. I'm thrilled that Dr. Singh is returning to the animal shelter. He has a wonderful reputation. And does this mean that you'll be reinstating TNR in its full capacity finally?
TNR has been at full capacity.
Full capacity? That's completely incorrect, Commissioner Marino. That's completely incorrect.
Commissioner, is it back at full capacity?
Well, right now, we're accommodating everyone that's calling us.
Excuse me, but you just had someone call today for cats and no one even answered the phone. But full capacity, if you look back to when and how often the town offered the program, you're running at about a 25% rate, and that includes the additional outsourced contract with Central Vet and Associates. So please don't misspeak like that, because you have a long waiting list for people that are waiting to get much needed TNR services.
Anyone that calls us, will accommodate them.
Not true. Not true. I'll bring them to the podium right now. Kelly, did you have a problem getting through to the shelter today for a TNR issue? Anyway, my next question is Dr. Singh going to be utilizing the $227,000 taxpayer-funded mobile spay-neuter vehicle?
I believe he's in-house. I believe he'll be working at our
Does in-house mean that that 227,000 state-of-the-art taxpayer-funded vehicle is going to continue and rust and rot in the back of the shelter in spite of the tremendous need in your community?
Right now, based on, CDC guidelines and
No. Prior to CDC guidelines, I have a FOIL which shows you purchased this vehicle in 2015, brand new. When it was delivered to the shelter, it had 1,300 miles. And before COVID struck, the total mileage was a measly 1,800 miles, which means that as a township, over 5 years, you used $227,000 of taxpayer money to utilize this mobile TNR unit for a pathetic 500 miles over 5 years. Will you utilize this asset? If not, why don't you liquidate it to an actual place that will use it, such as rescues that are taking on this town's slack and have been for years?
we will use it in the appropriate time when it's safe.
When is the appropriate time? People are desperate for help. People are fundraising. People are doing TNR out of other municipalities because the town of Hempstead has shut its back to your own taxpayers and people desperate indeed to try to help suffering animals. When's the right time?
Right now, we're accommodating everybody that wants.
Wrong. That is completely incorrect. That is a lie. Do you want me to prove it to you? I have text messages. I have private messages. I have trappers who are begging for help. Can you get me an appointment here? Does anyone have an appointment at Island Rescue? TLC, Last Hope. They're exploding. And you guys have a measly, what, 2 kittens going on? 2? You don't accommodate everyone. You barely accommodate 15 people a week.
Thank you, Ms. Heffron. Next, we have a...
Mrs. Heffron.
Mrs. Heffron. Apologies. Ms. Meriday? Good afternoon. If you give me name and address for the record, please.
Rita J. Meriday. I choose not, based upon the open floor requirement, that I don't have to disseminate my address. And also due to past history of harassment for exercising my First Amendment right. So, having said that, a number of issues were brought up today, and as it pertains to the calendar and the agenda, I wanted to speak to item 33. Actually, there's like 24 to 34, just for a general overview. For occupational therapy, I'm concerned still that we're in 2021 and we still do not follow federal regulations that identify the diversity and outreach or lack of same within the town of Hempstead as it pertains to contracts. I have yet to see a contract that has been awarded, at least not listed as so, to a service-disabled, veteran-owned, or minority and women-owned business. That is a grave concern, considering the number of litigations that are in place and the fact that we're getting funding consistently, our taxpayer dollars, through state and federal processes that administer and require and expect that type of representation and inclusion, or as it happens here, lack of same. So it seems like it's more of the same in the town of Hempstead, with old boy networks that continue to thrive while other communities continue to suffer. I was amazed with the earlier presentation of yet another luxury housing establishment, when, as it was pointed out earlier, that there are funding platforms in place, again, based upon federal guidelines, to assist with the increasing homelessness that's impacting our residents here in the town of Hempstead. But we're going to continue to support luxury housing on the guise that it's going to keep our young people here who are not getting the jobs that could accommodate those types of rentals. And I'm also concerned, but I was heartened by the fact that the Long Island Housing Partnership is going to be involved with this rental process for the funds, even though Newsday has already shown that the city has not executed its obligations to actually provide rental assistance, but to continue to provide luxury, let's say, accommodations in terms of jobs for their friends and relatives. So again, it seems like the cronyism, nepotism, and patronage that we keep Flipping leadership in the town and county does not support or substantiate the voices of the public. Lastly, the media aspect, where we have one particular publication group that's getting $50,000 in advertising and supplemental resources when the mailings are killing us, when you're addressing sunscreen, and I've got veterans who are living on the streets. So I'm going to take my privilege, as other people who have gone beyond the time period, to just wrap up to basically say that this, again, continues to be the atrocity that is the township. And finally, it's always good to see Councilman Carini, even though I consistently have said I have yet to hear from you in response to emails, letters, or phone calls.
All right, thank you, Ms. Meride. We appreciate your thoughts.
Supervisor, if I could just point out for 1 second, I don't know the exact amount, but I believe that the PPE kits that were purchased through the federal CARES money, which I think was close to probably a $3 million purchase, actually went to a veteran-owned business so that we could provide these kits to local businesses so that they can keep their doors open and their employees safe.
Thank you, Ms. Merida.
You said that we do not support any veteran-owned business. I was pointing out that we actually use federal CARES money. One of the veteran-owned businesses, Mr. Longobardi, do you have the name of the business? Complete Packaging, a registered veteran-owned business. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Speaker Bonnie Garone. You go up to the mic in the back there and just give your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Where the podium is.
Thank you.
Hi, Bonnie Garone, Rockford Center, New York.
Afternoon.
Hi, I have a question about the personnel resolutions, and it's just a general question. It doesn't pertain to any particular employee, of course. I noticed that for the appointments, the vast majority of them are non-competitive. There were only 4, I think, out of 20-something that actually appeared to be the result of a civil service test. So I'm wondering if you can tell us who determines whether a particular job is non-competitive.
Mr. Salmon.
The New York State Department of Civil Service has the final say on which classification a job title will fall into.
So, excuse me, it's the New York State Department of Civil Service? Then what function in that regard does the county Department of Civil Service have, if any?
They make local determinations and decisions, but that are subject to final approval by the state.
Okay, then what role in that context, if any, does the Town of Hempstead Civil Service Commission serve?
I'm sorry, that's who I was referring to. I misunderstood your
I had
previous
asked about
question.
the county. So I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Did you ask about Nassau County?
I had asked about the county, but
I'm sorry, yeah.
Can you repeat the answer as to the Town Department of Civil Service?
Town of Hempstead Department of Civil Service makes determinations and recommendations on such matters. The final decisions are made by the state.
So then would I be correct in my understanding that you're telling us that the Town Civil Service Commission recommends to the state whether a particular title should be non-competitive, and then the state has the opportunity to approve that?
That's correct.
Is there a articulated basis, a public basis that you follow on making such recommendations?
The Town of Hempstead Civil Service Commission meets on a monthly basis. Public input is permitted.
So, I'm sorry, those meetings are public?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The public can attend in person?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but are there, I think I appreciate that information. I think my question was, is there a written set of guidelines or rules that guides the Civil Service Commission on making their recommendation as to whether a particular title should be non-competitive?
Certainly, the employees in the Town of Hempstead Civil Service Commission office are well-trained in civil service statutes, procedures, descriptions of titles, responsibilities. They utilize that expertise in making recommendations to the local commission.
I see. So, but in addition to the New York State statutes, are there any written guidelines that they follow?
They do have appendices for rules and procedures that they adopt, modify on occasion. There are guidelines that they utilize in making recommendations, yes.
Okay, so those are written guidelines. If someone were to foil those written guidelines, would they be produced?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have any of the slips on the administrative calendar. Does anybody in-house wish to be heard? Sure. If you come on up to the mic there and give your name and address for the record.
Diane Madden, Hempstead.
Good afternoon.
Item number 20. Dr. Singh's contract. Could someone tell me if this contract has been put online?
Dominic, do you have an answer for that, Mr. Lombardi? Hold on. What? Just so you know, Mr. Lombardi said not as of yet, but once it's passed, if it's passed, it will go online. Is that correct? Okay.
So what's really troubling, Supervisor Clavin, is that I know you don't like to talk about Laura Gillen, although you have taken her operational playbook and used it. You've alienated people. You have not kept your political promises and your campaign promises. One thing you haven't done is to post those contracts online for people to see before they pass, which would have been helpful in this case and in the situation with the geese issue. So I ask you that this board, as of today, please post all contracts online before the town board meeting. Item number 72. Could someone please tell me the difference? I see there's a lot of what appears to be patronage hiring for the Republican Club. Could someone please tell me the difference between a community research assistant and a community service representative?
I believe a community research assistant is a broader area of interaction with the community as opposed to a community services rep, which is utilized primarily for certain specific interactions.
So how does this work? Because I know the union is raising a big issue that's a big gaslighting effect as far as I'm concerned, because many people are working outside of those titles. So instead of updating those titles so people and the workforce are paid accordingly, they keep those titles the same. Whose responsibility is it to take a look at these titles and make sure that they coordinate with the jobs that the employees are made to do?
Well, the department heads oversee the assignment of all employee responsibilities, but the employees also have a process called a desk audit process where they can file a request with our civil service office to review exactly what they do and to see if those responsibilities conform to the job description.
That didn't answer my question. Whose responsibility is it to specify what is included in the titles? Because these titles are made, from my understanding, what, 50 years ago or more?
No, the titles are constantly reviewed and updated by the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission reviews the description of the titles in conformance with New York State Civil Service guidelines. And if there's any question as to whether or not the individual assignment is outside the scope of the title, the employee could raise the issue, or the department head can review the assignment and check the title specs to see if it conforms. And
So in other words, it would be, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Pistori should be reviewing all of the titles at the animal shelter, I'm assuming, because you have a lot of community research assistants outside of their title. In fact, the union president doesn't work her title. So it just all seems like a big scheme to me to defraud. I'm really very confused on how you can stand there. These titles are not appropriate. I'm not sure. Again, I'll look into and foil some of these particular titles that are here because, again, it just seems like a scheme to defraud the public. Item number 71. Could someone please tell me what injuries, what about this particular settlement, what injury, what department it was related to? Also, the settlement amount, and also how many years the case was litigated, and by what outside attorney, please.
Ms. Madden, I'll be able to get that information to you, but I don't have it immediately in front of me. I recognize the case. You see the amount is $47,000. It was a personal injury claim, and that amount was compared with verdicts and settlements common for this type of injury.
Could you please tell me what department it's related to?
Where the injury occurred, off the top of my head, I can't tell you at this moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, and once again, just as a final comment, I do urge the board to bring in an outside diversity consultant who will resolve the problems within the hiring process and Hempstead's own civil service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Madam Clerk, may I please have a motion to adopt the administrative calendar in its entirety?
I move that we adopt the administrative calendar 1 through 84.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. And may I please have a motion to
Move that
adjourn?
we adjourn.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye, and everybody have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you,
And be safe.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Now that the formal portion of the town board meeting has been adjourned, the town board will remain to listen to the public and the residents. First off, we will start with Felix Procacci.
Felix Procacci, Franklin Square. On May 13th, I emailed Don Durham, the FOIL appeals officer, with a list of my open FOIL requests. I also CC'd Don Clavin and Joe Nocella on the email. First, I'd like to know if Supervisor Clavin and Joe Nocella received my email. Did you receive my email, Supervisor Clavin, regarding...
Ms. Procacci, it's a public comment time. I'll let you go with
just say
it.
you don't know. Mr. Nocella, did you?
I believe I did, Mr. Procacci, but I can't swear to it.
Okay.
I have received emails from you in the past, and that may have been...
Very few. Okay. So what I'd like to know in general, since you didn't read the email, Mr. Clavin, there's 9 outstanding emails, 9 outstanding FOIL requests ranging from business days overdue, from 40 to 140 business days overdue. Are you going to do anything to ensure these FOIL requests get processed properly in accordance with state law? Okay.
Mr. Procacci, by the way, I never said I didn't read anything, so you shouldn't say that. That's not true.
You didn't want to answer, so what would you like me to think? Okay, I recall a couple of years ago with a Mr. Duffy, you went around town with your podium talking about the importance of FOILs. Mr. Duffy didn't get his FOIL request filled properly from the county, which he should have gotten from the county, and they bumbled it. It says here that there's 9 of these here. So will you go around town with your podium to ensure that the department heads responsible for filling these FOIL requests fill the FOIL requests expeditiously because they are, like I said, over 140 days over, business days overdue, and I can't even get a status. My email of May 13th was not for the records themselves, but was just for an estimated date as to when I will get these records, their current status, and I can't even get a status of my FOIA request, let alone the records requested, or even telling me that the records don't exist. So can I get a status of these 9 FOIA requests within the next week? A status? Mr. Clavin? No? Okay. Just so you know, on your...
I'll take that under I'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. And your commission, your civil service commission, I did one time go to their public meetings. They asked me at the door if I had an appointment. So I think you should set them straight that you don't need an appointment to attend a public meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Picacci. You have a great day. Next, I have up Diane Madden.
Diane Madden Hempstead. I wanted to talk about the meeting we had with Mr. Pastore. It began with him requesting that no one record the meeting. Honest people don't request that you refrain from recording. Honest people stand at this podium constantly, and they hope it's being recorded. Secondly, there was no computer in the room to give an example of his defense. There was no one specifically trained in PetPoint, the software company. There's no way, Supervisor, you could say that the cat was never there, Maria's cat, because Maria was never brought through. There's no policy under Mr. Pastore to have owners walk through the TNR trailer when they're missing a cat. He also has no policy. There's no policy to take pictures of every animal received by the shelter. That's outrageous. It just screams more mismanagement. As far as the situation with the geese, which I'm sure John DiLeonardo will bring the board up to date, that can be resolved quickly. I'm going to throw you a bone, Supervisor, and tell you that you should bring Mr. DiLeonardo in to consult on these issues in the future. That's how you resolve these problems. You don't burn bridges like Laura Gillen did. You build bridges, and you resolve problems before they begin. I'd like to know also who vetted this particular contract for the geese handling. Okay, so I guess I'll just go back.
Dominic, do you want to? Thank you, Dominic. Mr. Lombardi.
Good morning, everybody. Again, all contracts are vetted through as we get results and responses in. All contracts are vetted, and they've gone through not only a review in the purchasing division, but they also go through a review in each of the departments to pick the best person. And in this case, it was the lowest bidder was picked to replace the current contracts that was there. This is an annual contract that we do, so it's run through again. A complete process to review. So once you're done and looking at it and everybody's in agreement, then it either, depending on the amount that we're going to spend, either goes to the town board for review or put to an award and a PO by the departments, the purchasing department. So that's the complete.
So you mentioned
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Thank you so much.
That. You mentioned a department. Which department is it that reviewed this contract?
You explained the process of reviewing it. Thank you.
So you don't want him to answer the question, what department? Is this because it's an animal-related issue? Was this the animal shelter, general services?
I believe it was Parks. Am I right, Mr. Nocella?
Yes, it's correct. It's
Parks
Department.
Okay, so I'm going to make the same proposal that I made months ago, that this board consider a policy where if a vendor is found to be dishonest on an application, that they refund the money to the taxpayers. If that's the case, that's what a good government does. It holds their vendors accountable. It doesn't cover up for them. It doesn't make excuses for them. It holds them accountable, and it listens to constituents, especially where animal welfare is concerned and public welfare. We're paying for this contract. We're paying for it.
Ms. Madden, you might be interested to know that we are investigating the circumstances not only alleged by the principal of flyby geese control, but also the entirety of the application. It's under investigation, and upon conclusion, we will take the appropriate action, I assure you.
Well, I really appreciate that, because I was told this by Joe Ra about a behavior contract, and it was...
Just so you know, Joe Ra is no longer the town attorney. He
yes,
left
well,
in
and you know what? I actually
2020.
think that was a good decision. I actually commend you on that, Supervisor. Again, I think that concerning the workforce, you should be pushing for no more donations
Thank
from the
you
workforce.
so much, Ms. Madden. And now I'm going to ask Michelle
performance-based-
Allman to please come up.
Performance-based
Michelle Allman, thank you so much.
raises
Thank you, Ms. Madden.
and
Thank you.
advances.
Thank you.
Supervisor.
Yes, thank you. Afternoon.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Michelle Nunez-Elman, and I'm a homeowner in the town of Hempstead. I was horrified to learn about an incident that reportedly took place on Mother's Day on the off beach of the Long Island Yacht Club. Allegedly, Allie Barry, the owner of Flyby Geese Control, attacked a family of geese, beating the mother and attempting to drown her goslings. Obviously, this type of behavior is not humane practices, as Allie Barry states on her website. I am requesting the town of Hempstead ensure their residents that the geese in and around the town are not harmed in any way, and ensure that the town does not employ any businesses or individual who would engage in animal cruelty. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And I just want that, Mr. Nacella, when you became aware of this, would you let the resident know what took place?
Yes, of course, Supervisor.
Don?
Okay. No, I got you. I just want you to hear the town attorney. When someone advised us of it, we asked, they reached right out to Mr. Nacella, and the town attorney responded appropriately by Joe?
We began an investigation, and we suspended the contract pending the outcome of the investigation.
Okay, thank you. Councilman?
I'd like to call for a quick recess.
Sure. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess? Okay. 10 minutes? You got it, Councilman. Okay.